All right, welcome back, everybody. We are here in the Dragon's Lair once again. We are doing another fantastic interview with Skari Faye, or Skari the Faye. What do you go by? I saw that on Twitter. It says Skari the Faye or Skari Faye.
Yeah, it's just Skari, and then Faye is just a little end bit that I kind of tagged on because Skari is not available, so it's just Skari, and then Skari the Faye was all I could get on Twitter. But yeah, it's nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. First question I have for you is, so how long have you been in content creation?
Every time I get that question, I want to say, oh, not very long, but at this point, it's been just a little over 2 years, so somewhat long for a VTuber, I guess.
I think it's long for any content creator. I mean, that's usually a lot of people drop within the first year. That's what I'm finding, especially on YouTube. A lot of people get burned out and say, like, this ain't for me, fighting the algorithms, fighting for viewers. And
yeah, that first year is rough.
Always is.
Yeah.
Where can folks find you? Is it mostly Twitch, or is it also YouTube, or where? Or are you on like other platforms?
I'm primarily on Twitch. I try to stream 3 to 4 days a week there. And then I have 2 YouTube channels, a VOD channel, and then just, my regular YouTube where I upload videos and shorts and whatever. I also have a TikTok and Instagram, and then Twitter and Blue Sky. So I'm kind of everywhere.
You have a lot of social media.
Yeah.
Oh, that's too much for me. I can barely handle X. Kudos to you if you're able to do that much juggling.
I mean, I don't do all of them well, but they're there.
It feels like at that point, it's like, hey, you know what? I need a hiring manager just to sit there and go through all my threads.
Well, that was kind of the plan, but
yeah, that's kind of how I feel like sometimes. I'm like, and I just have one. It's like, all right, when did you start VTubing? Or have you always been VTubing?
Actually, I started at the same time I started my channel, so I've kind of always been a VTuber. So about 2 years ago, I started in October of 2022. Yeah, 2022.
Is Skari the original concept that you have for a VTubing character? Or is this a reincarnation of a different character? Or so how did you come to this thought process?
Skari was the first idea. At the time I was very into Final Fantasy XIV. And so I made my Final Fantasy XIV character in Dungeons and Dragons. And then I took my Dungeons and Dragons character and made that into a VTuber.
So Final Fantasy XIV and D&D. Well, I definitely say I've run into a lot more people that I've met through VTubing that have played that, which is funny since I started that 2008. Or Realm Reborn is when I started, back when it was nowhere near what it was. It's a very good
player.
Game. Yeah, it's a very good game. I was impressed how much they fixed it compared to what it was.
Oh, I heard. Yeah, I didn't start until Shadowbringers, so everything was mostly good around that time. But
you started during the great era. I love Shadowbringers. That is my favorite DLC expansion.
Mine too, yeah.
Next to Endwalkers. I still like Shadowbringers better than Endwalkers, but Endwalkers was good. I know there's a lot of controversy on that, but I'm like, I like Endwalkers. It finished the story.
Endwalkers was good. Shadowbringers just holds a special place in my heart.
Oh, it does mine too. The whole story from start to finish is just great. And they really bring every character out, and that's what I love about it.
Yeah, it was great. I really loved it.
Okay. Some people are able to answer this question, but I haven't been able to get a whole lot of answer on this, so maybe you might be able to break this record here. Okay. So what sort of backstory do you have for your character?
Oh, well, it's kind of a surprise. Because I'm supposed to have a lore video coming out with my 2.0 debut, but because of the company my my debut kept getting pushed back for an entire year. The very quick kind of TLDR, I guess, is that Skari is a forest spirit who used to guide lost souls back home, keep them safe. And then one day, the people kind of turned on her, and, hunters came into the forest and whatever. And since then, no more people allowed in the forest. So, the very kind of quick, version of it.
Sounds really cool. I can't wait to see the full lore drop on that.
It's going to be very scuffy. MS Paint video and just, all the scuffy charm.
Nothing wrong with that. I think sometimes those are the best.
I agree.
What type of content do you like to do?
I'm mostly a variety streamer. I usually do about an hour or two of just chatting before we pop into the game, and then I really like Souls-likes, adventure games, RPGs, indie games. I'll play kind of just anything. If I always like to tell my community that I didn't get to play a lot of games growing up, and so now I'll kind of just give anything a try. If I've heard a game is great, I'll play it. So lots of variety, lots of just trying out new stuff.
I think that's the best with that variety. I've seen too many content creators get themselves pigeonholed into one or two things, and then 3 or 4 years later, they've grown their whole audience on one thing, and then they're like, I don't want to do this. And I'm thinking, I'd rather take twice as long to grow, as long as I have, everybody knows variety is what you're going to get.
I agree. Yeah. It gets rough when you grow tired of the thing you're supposed to be streaming.
Yeah.
You want to have fun while you're doing it.
Yeah, this one guy, he's got 500,000 subscribers on YouTube. He has done 7 Days to Die for like 8 or 9 years. Ooh. And I'm like, and he's always trying to find new ways to keep it interesting. And I'm like, dude, that content's drying out. And every time he goes to something different, his viewership just goes. I'm like, ooh.
Yeah, it's rough.
I'm just like, yeah, that's why I'll be happy to grow slower at a pace as long as it's variety, because I want people here for me and not the game. And that's so I honestly say, Skari, that is the best way to grow. Takes longer. I agree. But yeah, it's not worth it being pigeonholed.
Totally agree.
What's your future plans for 2025? Since we only got 2 weeks left till Christmas, or do you have any big plans for Christmas? So kind of tell me what you're planning to do.
Yeah, nothing for the rest of the year. Everything kind of fell apart with, the recent events. And so the plans that I did have for the rest of the year are no longer happening. But for 2025, I'm finally going to get my 2.0 debuted. I have a lot of collabs with friends that I've been pushing off because I keep telling them, like, oh yeah, we'll do this together after we get debuted into the agency. It'll be less likely that people will guess that we are, both a part of the agency or whatever. And so I kept putting things off. And so 2025, now that I'm no longer there, is finally going to be the year that we can do all those together. So I got collabs planned, my 2.0. I've got other stream ideas that I have written down that I'm just kind of keeping on the back burner until the holidays kind of quiet down and I can get to them. So lots of different stuff, hopefully. No more putting things off because I'm hoping, for something to happen or any of that. So 2025 is just going to be a lot of the stuff that I've wanted to do all year in 2024 that I wasn't able to get to.
Well, look at it as 2025 is your year.
I sure hope so. Oh gosh, if it is any worse than 2024, I am not quite sure what I will do.
Keep the hope up that 2025 will be great.
Absolutely.
So will
Mhm.
you be working with a lot of other VTubers then from your previous company, still with lore connections then come
No
next
lore
year?
connections. No lore connections. Even in the company, there weren't really going to be any lore connections. I think they wanted to do like an alternate AU where the company had, their lore connected. But no, just like collab streams, just playing the same game together, or doing stuff maybe like the Hot Ones challenge, or silly stuff like that.
Did you make your model or make the design, or how did you come up with Skari as far as the, I'm assuming 2D model, correct? I'm still trying to
Mhm.
get better versed at that between 2D and 3D.
No, you're good. You're good. Yeah, it's 2D. So it's a bit of a long story. I am maybe one of the most unlucky people that I know when it comes to VTubing. Uh, Back when I started VTubing, I didn't know anything about how to get a model, right? Most people will start with a PNG and then they'll get used to VTubing and they'll kind of, pick up how to do it from there. I decided not to do that, which is a bit of a, bad idea, because what if I didn't like VTubing? Then, I'd spend all this money on a model. But now I knew this was what I wanted to do. So I went out and I didn't know where to look for a model artist. And so I went to Etsy. And a word of the wise to anybody who is looking to get a VTuber model: please don't go to Etsy, because 95% of the people who sell VTuber models on Etsy are scammers. And they use AI art, and or they trace, or you're generally just not getting what you pay for there. So, little Skari, trying to get her very first model, went to Etsy, and I got scammed. I came up with the design myself, but because the person who was supposed to be making my model was using AI and tracing, they didn't actually listen to me very
Mm-hmm.
much when I was talking about my design. I think I turned out mostly okay, mostly kind of how I wanted to, but they didn't really take a lot of, the things that I was asking for. So 2.0 is going to be a little bit closer to what I actually envisioned with Skari. Um, and yeah, that's actually kind of why I've been trying to get a 2.0 for so long, because don't support AI art, not at all. So been kind of stuck with this model a little bit.
I'm glad you brought that Etsy up because one of my previous interviewees had just got their new 2D model from Etsy, and
Uh,
they were encouraging that a little bit, not entirely, but they were saying, well, they paid 300, but then you're going to turn around and pay 1,000 for the rigging, so you're still not really ahead. But they went through Etsy, and I'm glad to hear a different take on Etsy, because I wondered and was really concerned when hearing Etsy of all places to get
it's
a
too good to
model.
be true. Yeah, it's too good to be true, and most VTubers don't realize that. So I would be very, 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 very careful if you're going to Etsy. You really have to keep an eye out on their past works. Maybe even reach out to some of their clients that they've taken to see what they think, because it's hard. You don't spot it immediately, But I would not go to Etsy. It's very, very likely that you are going to get scammed if you go there.
I'm glad somebody said that. I was worried about how bad AI was getting tapped into
Mm-hmm.
VTubing as well, which, I'd rather pay the extra money to have somebody draw it and have it done, do
Mm-hmm.
it by hand, instead of trying to copy a lot of the characters that you already see that are very popular on YouTube or
Yeah.
Twitch, which, in fact, we just saw that today on X. One of the people that I follow and they follow me, she was bringing it up. She goes, "Oh, great. The bots are becoming sentient now." And they had stolen other VTubers' art and seemed like AI. And I was like, wow, this is crazy.
Yeah, it's getting worse and worse out there.
Yeah.
Not fun.
So, how would you go about getting a VTuber model this time around and get the rigging set up? Would it just be looking around on X, or what is your advice for those that are looking to start or get into VTubing now?
Yeah, Twitter is a really, really great place to look for new VTuber artists. That's actually where I found the artist for my 2.0, and she was really, really inexpensive, very budget friendly, and the art turned out amazing. So you can find a lot of good artists on Twitter. VGen is another pretty good place to look if you're, wanting to find new artists, even rigging. VGen, Twitter, those are probably the two main sites. Another thing you can do is if you are on Twitch or on YouTube and you see a VTuber, you're like, oh, hey, they have a really pretty model. A lot of the times you can scroll down in their panels into their About section and they will list out the artist that they use. And so that's another good way to find good artists. And yeah, I would really highly recommend just if anytime you see an artist that you think you might like, copy the link, paste it in a document somewhere, and then whenever you're ready to, get commissioning, go through that document, pick out, which artist you think works best for you, and go ahead and do that.
And is there any red flags particularly you should look out for artists?
Read the TOS. Read the TOS because, sometimes artists have stuff in there that's kind of lets you know they might not be the easiest person to work with. There was a particularly bad artist that I worked with a while ago where we read their TOS, and then they got mad at me for something that was kind of out of my control. And they updated their TOS afterwards to be something along the lines of like, if you can't afford my commissions, I'm going to blacklist you from everywhere, and I'm going to put your name on blast on Twitter, and I'm going to tell every single one of my friends about you. And it was just very unprofessional. Don't put that in your TOS. Don't tell people that if they're too poor to commission you, then you're going to blast them. The reason I wasn't able to commission them was kind of for the same reason. They tacked on a fee at the very end that just put them out of my price range. And I let them know nicely. I said, oh, I'm so sorry, but, with this extra fee, I don't think I'm going to be able to continue this. And they hadn't done any work yet or anything, but they were very unhappy. So read the TOS. Wow. I would also say some artists like to list commercial fees separately from the actual VTuber model fee. And to me personally, that's a bit of a red flag because VTuber models are always commercial. Always, always, always. You're never going to get a VTuber model and then not use it for branding, not use it for streaming, not go on Twitter or Twitch or YouTube with it, So that's probably another thing to watch out for.
Yeah, so, I mean, technically they're doing the art and doing the concept, but they should know that they're signing, basically, when they finish it, they've signed away, or should sign away, their rights to it, because that character is your or any other VTuber's branding. And that character is literally it. I mean, I remember Fillion had that problem not too long ago because she used that VR model that was out there, and then they had all those toys and stuff, which is a little bit of a different situation, but it still ran into the realm of copywriting and commercial use and things like that.
Yeah.
But that's just ridiculous. Wow, I can't believe an artist would go that far to basically burn bridges and destroy their business. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah. This artist apparently has a little bit of a reputation for being not so easy to work with. So, it is what it is.
Well, hope they're Picasso or somebody that's really, really big in art that can do that, because you can't do that, burn bridges like that. At least I went to school for business and accounting, so I'm like, you don't burn your bridges like that, guys.
Yeah.
And I see it way too many times, though, in some form of business that they just burn their bridges. It's like, from your experience right now, do you think India is the best way to go, or would you still try to join an agency again?
It's a really difficult question, honestly. More and more people, and more big VTubers too, are saying that 2025 is going to be the year of the indie, that, there's no point in joining an agency, that, I think 20 agencies closed this year. So lots and lots of people are kind of questioning why you would even want to join an agency anymore. And I do think you should be careful when when you decide to sign a contract with any agency. But I don't think they're all bad. I do think that the friends that you make in the agency, the connections you gain from joining an agency, the sponsorships that come your way, if your agency is doing anything right, even the promotion that they can give you, I do think those can be great helps. But it is true that agencies are slowly becoming less and less necessary, especially with just how many bad ones there are out there.
Why do people typically join agencies? And kind of give me the broad scope as somebody that's not a VTuber, or somebody that's kind of been independent in media even. I know there's a lot of viewers out there that still get confused that when you say agency, they just only think of like HoloLive, if they're familiar with it, or Niji Sanji, or Vsojo. Those are the three that are probably the main staples right now. But what does an agency overall bring? I mean, besides branding, why would anyone want to do an agency in general?
Oh, they can offer a lot of things. I did mention, the sponsorships are one thing. I probably never would have gotten the sponsorships that I have today without them. A lot of agencies offer video editing help. So if you don't know how to video edit, or if you just think your video editing could be improved at all, or if you just don't have time to video edit, that's a huge thing. That was one of the main reasons that I decided to join. The friends as well. I know there are a lot of VTubers out there, a lot of VTubers who feel very lonely and like they don't have, a set group of friends or people that they can really talk to or collab with or anything. And when you debut with an agency, it gives you already kind of this very close-knit group of people that you kind of work with every day, So a lot of people are very, very kind of envious of the relationships that can kind of come with being in an agency with a group of other VTubers who are all kind of going through the same experiences that you are. So there's a bunch of reasons, but I think those are probably the big ones. It's the resources it can give you, the connections, the friends, also just the marketing, because it is easier, when you have a marketing, a company, backing you with ads or social media posts or whatever it is,
Now, as far as agencies go, now some of the ones I mentioned, Vsojo is the only one I believe that still you have retain all rights to your character. Is that pretty standard then for a lot of the agencies that you've seen as out there, that you lose the rights to your character or you sign everything away, or is that kind of just exclusive to some of like the major old guard agencies?
Yeah, most VTuber agencies nowadays, and for a while, they have characters that you audition for. And so when you submit your application, if they like you, they decide you're going to fit really well into this character. And so they'll give you a character, and then that becomes your IP. You kind of leave your old self behind, and you become this new character. For agencies like Vshoujo, or like how VirtuX was supposed to be, those are agencies that are kind of called adoption style agencies, and they will let you keep your IP and grow your brand based off of that. So they aren't very common. I would say most agencies nowadays are kind of like Niji Sanji or Hololive, where they give you a character. But yeah, agency style is really nice if you really, really love your character and you don't want to leave them.
So I guess I had it wrong there. I thought it was Hololive, and what kind of style was the old guard, not the other way around.
Nah, they are what appeared first, but they are still definitely the most dominant in the industry. Most companies will give you a character.
Oh wow.
Mm-hmm.
That's rough. But what I found fascinating with that is, it's easy somehow to find the person once they leave those companies without them saying anything, without even breaking the NDA. One I think of was Amelia. I stumbled on Amelia, just that kept seeing this post on X, and I was like, okay, this is interesting. And then I went to look up this VTuber because they're talking about debuting, and I follow some of the other journalists like Rima Evenstar, and they were talking about it. And so I go on their YouTube and it said 90,000 subscribers for 2 videos. I'm like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
And the next thing I know, and the weird thing is, I feel like when I saw the character, it literally looked like Amelia with ears. And I'm like, wow, that's like really, really close to your old character. And that floored me. I was like, okay, maybe that's really close, unless somehow Hololive said, okay, we'll let you get away with it.
Probably not, but I mean, what can they do? Doobie and Amelia are very different characters, even if they might, look the same, I guess. So there's not really much they can do there, I guess. Yeah, I think especially this year, the kind of stigma around keeping past lives, as they call them, hidden has kind of gone away, which I think is a good thing. Yeah. I'm really glad for that.
Yeah, I saw somebody on X had released a whole bunch of, well, I saw it with series Fauna leaving Hololive under management dispute, was at least what she said. On Next Down X, I saw people saying, well, if Hololive's going under, here's all their old YouTube accounts and stuff. And I'm like, oh Lord, I hope they don't get in trouble. I'm just...
Nah. A year or two ago, and you probably would have had all those other people on Twitter, flaming them in the comments, telling them to take it down, probably getting mad at them, telling them, how dare you? But it's become a lot more acceptable these days, which is really, really nice to see.
You think Niji Sanji had something to do with that? Especially with the selling Doki Bird thing? Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she's the first person I think of. I mean, that's kind of the point that I kind of started getting more into the VTubing side, especially with agencies. But you never could find anybody that had been in an agency because NDAs and, they had to tread the line. And then I started seeing a lot of legal issues talking about it. And it's like, holy crap, there's definitely nothing I've seen that's positive with the agencies.
Yeah.
But then I got thinking, well, no, because everybody's running to VSojo. So I'm like, there's got to be something good. Now, I know there was the whole debacle with Vebe and Silvervale with VShojo, but for the most part, I've seen a lot of Niji Sanji's former VTubers leave and go right there. Which,
absolutely.
So I found that all interesting. So that's kind of why I dived a little bit more into agencies, because if you're not really in the VTubing world and you're just a content creator, which, I I've never seen agencies for just, well, they call it flesh tubers, but I can definitely understand that when you're out branding on your own and trying to get your name out there and you're trying to market or network, it's brutal. It's brutal because sometimes people don't take a chance on you. Sometimes people don't know what you're about. It's really hard. So I can definitely understand why agencies are a thing too.
Absolutely.
If you could do it all over, what type of ideal agency would you aim for? What kind of things do you look for?
Yeah, myself personally, I look for a lot of things that are very similar to how VShojo runs things, or even how VirtuX was supposed to be running things before everything went south. For me personally, it's very important to me that I keep my IP. I don't ever want to be anybody but Skari. I really, really like, I really like my VTuber. I don't want to be anyone else. I feel like I have a pretty unique kind of, design at least. And, so for me, that's important. But I guess other things, can they provide anything else outside of just, posting about me on social media? Can they help with, my video editing projects? Are they able to help with anything else? Like, do they assist you in getting outfits for your model, or do they run events? But for me, at least, just the biggest thing is, can I keep my IP? Can I stay Skari? Are they gonna let me, do the type of content that I want to do?
That's really cool. I mean, and I feel like that should be the way it goes. At least that would be my ideal if I was looking at an agency too. It's just something like that, because I have a concept in mind. Yes, at some point I'll probably jump into VTubing, but it's like my buddy Orcosaurus, great guy, he keeps pushing me towards. He says, you should do it. I said, I have two concepts, I said, that are very hard to do. I said, a full functioning dragon is not something that's easy right now. Yeah, I said, I have been researching that, and I said, I don't think anybody's quite got that part where you're going to have the tail and the wings and everything moving of a massive dragon. I think we're still a ways on technology for that.
Nah, I've seen people who can do similar stuff. I think the issue is just the price. That gets expensive.
Oh, that must be why I haven't seen any then out there, really. So it's like, ooh. And the other one is kind of another secret project. So, but like I told my buddy, I said, thing about it is I want to do like Kason. I like how if she doesn't want to be in the VTuber mode, as I want to call it, she doesn't. She's just like what I am right now. She's the one that I really, really enjoy being able to see that, she goes back and forth. And for me, the illusion is always gone. With, like I was telling you, with I do gardening and cooking, that's almost impossible. We were talking about that, a previous interviewee. I said, there's no way you're going to be able to do a green screen outside or whatever the case and try to insert. I said, the cost of that alone to do that would be astronomical. You're talking Hollywood level production equipment and everything. So I said, nah, we'll just kind of stick with that. That's good to know. If they wanted to get into VTubing, what would you recommend? As far as, should they start as a PNG tuber, or what do you recommend on that?
Just get started. Don't worry about your model. Don't worry about your PNG. Don't even worry about your branding, really. Like, it's good if you have an idea. It's great if you have an idea. But I think the first thing you got to do is figure out if you even like streaming. Because there are so many people, you come on, you see us on Twitch or on YouTube, you see us, having fun every day. But, maybe you try it out, you realize you don't actually like talking for 4 hours straight, You realize that maybe you feel a lot of pressure, or it just, it gives you anxiety. Maybe it's just not for you. So I always recommend at least just going live, seeing if you like it. You know, if you can afford a PNG tuber, those are great. You know, your little design will bring people in, and you know, it's a little bit easier to market yourself that way. But yeah, just hit the live button, see if you like it, see if it's for you. Don't worry about the model until you know that this is something you want to do.
Yeah, I think that's great wisdom there. And you also get used to streaming to 0 or 1 viewers for quite a while till you get, you get lucky, really.
Yep.
I know a lot of people say, "Oh, it's not luck." Oh, there's still definitely a lot of luck to it. As it's time. It's very time based on that.
There's definitely stuff you can do to like help your luck or, boost yourself, but luck does play into it a bit for sure.
Going back to that one comment too about you like Skari and you like the design. So from what I've seen, it's mostly demons, cat girls. I've seen wolf and dog girls. I've seen dragons. Not very many.
Oh, lots of dragons.
Really?
Oh, really?
Really?
Oh,
I've only run
I see
about
dragons
5.
all the time.
It's mostly demons that I run into.
Yeah, no, it's like you said, demons, cats, foxes, wolves, dragons. I see a lot of elves as well.
Yeah, elves, you see a lot of that. So I was gonna say, that's something too to consider is you got to stand out too. A lot of people forget
on the
about
flip side of that, if you really, really do love dragons, then go ahead and be one,
Yeah.
You got to make sure you're happy with yourself too.
True. True. Okay.
That is something that a good designer can help with though, because if you do want to be one of those oversaturated kind of markets, and you do decide, oh, pick a dragon, then a designer can kind of help you give key features to your VTuber so that you'll be more easily recognizable. Something to consider.
I ran into you on X, noticing that you were leaving VirtuX or VirtuX.
Yeah, VirtuX.
And so I was curious what was going on. And then I saw your massive document and I was just like, holy crap. And then I saw so many others starting posting their documents, leaving or thing. So how did this, without you getting in trouble? As I
won't get in trouble.
Okay. I want to make sure because I saw that he was threatening legal at one point. And I was like,
threatened it. But he can't do nothing about it.
But then he made a post and then vanished. I saw that. So, I thought that whole thing was weird too. So kind of go back as far as you want to kind of how this all came together and kind of the cliff notes, how much you want to disclose, how this all happened, what were the red flags. This will help the viewers as well to kind of, if they decide they want to look at an agency, the red flags that are be like, oh, wait a minute, maybe I should bail out of this. And kind of just go as far as you want on this.
Yeah, so I think that's a really good question. And another thing that's kind of related to that is a lot of people also ask, how do you fall for such an obvious red flag? Because, when you come and you see the documents that everybody makes, you're like, oh, yeah, it's so obvious. It's so clear. Why would you ever join something like that? Because you're only seeing the lies. So I think it is important for the viewers to kind of know that when it started out, those red flags just simply weren't there, We didn't have all those documents to tell us what was going on. We didn't have, testimonials from past employees or any of that. When we started VirtuX, when we started with VirtuX, at least for me personally, it was Ray, the CEO, who ended up being the problem, and Kuzi, his roommate, who is a very, very sweet guy who didn't do anything wrong, but he just kind of got caught up in it, right? Everybody got caught up in this mess. So when it started, we were interviewing with Ray and Kuzi. They told us all about VirtuX. They told us that we get to keep our IP. They answered all of our questions. And this was around the time where a lot of small VTuber agencies were kind of blowing up. They've apparently have a track record. A lot of small VTuber agencies will blow up. So a lot of us did ask, like, what makes you different? How are you not going to blow up? And without giving away personal details about, Ray's personal life that could, dox him, which, for all the crap he did, I'm not going to dox anybody. He does work in a semi-related field. He had a great plan for, moving the company forward. He answered all of our questions super well. He told us how he was going to market us. He let us know, what the goals of the agency were. And at the start, it was great. Everything seemed to go fine. We saw Instinct, the very first wave, get released, and there were a few hiccups, but, we were just a brand new agency. It was the very first wave, and everything ended up working out, nothing too spooky just yet. I think where it all kind of started turning south was Ray kind of started to stop communicating. That's a bit of a weird way of putting it. Or he stopped communicating, right? He stopped giving us updates. If we asked questions, he just wouldn't answer. He would just disappear for like a week or two at a time, sometimes more. It just got progressively worse and worse. Every time that somebody would ask him, like, hey, do you need somebody to help you marketing, or help you on, sorry, my brain, oof. Anytime anybody asked him, like, hey, do you need any help managing the Twitter? Or do you need anybody to be a PA for you so that people can come to you? Or, they can come to the PA, they can tell them all this stuff, and then the PA gives it to you? Or do you need, like, managers? A lot of people offered to do it for free because they could tell that Ray was struggling, that he bit off too much than he could chew, that, he wasn't able to do everything on his own, and he refused. He blamed it on trust issues. He would ignore them, just wouldn't take it, right? So, another red flag, he wouldn't delegate. Kuzi, his COO, who was in the interview with us, was supposed to be helping, and he tried, but Ray wouldn't let him do anything. So, Kuzi wasn't really able to do much. He didn't give any of the managers access to the financials. And so, yeah. He also, Ray got really, really upset whenever any of the talents would reach out to artists. He really, really, really wanted to keep it so that only he would talk to the artists. He would be the only one to go through them. And then, we would just communicate through him. Which...
That seems awful sus there. Why would...
Yeah. So at the beginning, we saw that and we said, okay, it kind of makes sense because I think I mentioned a little earlier in the interview that I had an issue with an artist who yelled at me because I couldn't afford her commission.
Mm-hmm.
And she had kind of blown up at me, and she ended up actually stealing over $800 from me because she was just not a very nice person, right?
Mm-hmm.
So at the beginning, Ray said, okay, all communication with artists is going to go through me now. And we all kind of went, oh, yeah, it's because of that situation, right? He's just being a little bit too overprotective. But it ended up getting really, really bad. And what would happen is Ray wouldn't pay artists, and then artists couldn't reach out to the talents to let them know what was going on. So for that entire year that I was in VirtuX, Ray was ghosting artists, not paying them, just causing all sorts of problems, and none of us knew because none of us would get to talk to them. By the time December rolls around, Saga, which is my wave, had been pushed back several months. We had so many issues with artists. He claimed that all these artists had ghosted him, had taken his money, all this stuff that we eventually found out was not true. But we had so many issues that they ended up splitting the wave in two. 3 people ended up debuting, and then the other 3, which was me, Vixie, and Koss, were going to be debuting later. And when I hopped into a call with my manager a few days before debut, we started going over all my stuff, making sure everything was ready. And that was kind of when we realized Ray had promised me alerts a few months back. And my manager said, oh, yeah, let me check with the artist. I know Ray reached out to them. Ray was supposed to get that commission going. Let me just see where they are. Let me reach out to the artist myself, and I'll handle it. So he reached out, and it was in that meeting that we found out that Ray had never actually reached out to the artist. The artist had no DMs with them, no emails, nothing. Ray hadn't reached out at all, even though we had several screenshots of him saying that he would, and that he had, he had this thought confirmed. The artist was going to take so many months, but then we would all eventually get our alerts. And when my manager saw that, he got really upset because this was starting to become a bit of a pattern. And myself and one of the other talents started questioning whether he had actually reached out to some of the other artists that he claimed to have reached out to at all.
Mm-hmm.
So my manager went offline to look into this a little bit, to ask Ray about this. And me and my other friend that was part of the agency started reaching out to our artists, even though we were told not to. Because it was all getting to be a little too much. All of the delays, all of the lack of communication, everything was just starting to get very suspicious, very not great. You keep promising us everything. You keep promising, the world, your VTubers, your talents, and then he kept not delivering. So we reached out to our artists. We said, hey, did Ray ever reach out to you for this and this and this? And the amount of artists that responded and said, no, we've never even heard of this guy, was insane. For example, my rigging that was supposed to be done for my model, he said that he reached out to one artist, or one rigger for it, and he was supposed to give me updates and, keep me posted. Excuse me. And I never got any updates. Nothing. And then 5 days before my debut, Ray calls me on Discord and he says, yeah, so your rigger ghosted and took the money and they're gone now. So now we have to panic and try to get your rigging done in 3 days with this other rigger. And yeah, so, when I was looking through all these artists with my friend, I reached out to that very first rigger that he had said ghosted. I reached out to them and I said, hey, did you ever actually talk to Ray? And he said, no, never, not ever. He didn't even know the guy. Which I think pretty understandably sent me into a bit of a spiral, because you're supposed to debut this entire wave and you don't even reach out to the rigger until 5 days before the wave is set to debut. Rigging is a big deal. Like, rigging takes about a month if you're, about a month, maybe longer, depending on the quality of the rigging, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this kind of told me he didn't reach out at all. It's 5 days before debut, and he hasn't even gotten started on my rigging. So something was fishy, and after that, we kind of just started finding more and more and more promises and lies and just digging up all this terrible stuff that he had done, that he had kept hidden from all of us, that he had lied about. Because it wasn't just him getting overwhelmed, it was the lying. And so once we all found out about that, I think we all decided that unless something major happened, we were all leaving because we couldn't trust him anymore. So
literally all the skeletons just fell right out of that closet.
Mm-hmm. And I apologize if if my story was a little hard to follow. I don't know how good I am at speaking, but
I think it tells the tale. I mean, you got promised a lot. He told everybody that, hey, I don't contact your artists, don't contact your riggers. I handle everything. Don't worry about it. And then kept saying, hey guys, don't worry about this. It's coming. It's coming. It's coming. And then as you're getting close to your debut, or you're needing your alerts, it's like, oh, well, this person just ran off with the money, or this person ghosted, which also basically defames the artist.
Yeah.
Especially if you have a name out there, then you're like, hey, Jack, why did you just ghost him? Why'd you take the money and run? And to me, that can also get you into lawsuits. He would have put his company in a lot of lawsuits with just defaming people. You can't do that in the business world.
Yeah. So the biggest lie that Ray told us is that he had a partnership with Vshoujo. He said that he owned 5% of Vshoujo and that Vshoujo owned 10% of VirtuX, right?
Mm-hmm.
And every single time, or well, a good chunk of the time, when payments were missed, he would tell artists, or he would tell us, that it was because Vshoujo's accountant didn't get it paid.
Oh no.
So he started messing with a huge agency's reputation, saying that, Vshoujo was the one not paying artists and that they were doing all this terrible stuff. And that can get him into massive trouble too.
Especially considering they have way more lawyers than he does.
Yeah.
We
don't think he has a lawyer.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's like the little guy taking on Nintendo. It's like, no, you're toast with all those lawyers.
Yeah. Oh. So, that was another thing where when we found out that the partnership never existed, that was just another reason that all of us decided that very same day that we were going to be leaving. Because that's an insane thing to lie about.
Well, when your guys' careers are on the line, you're trying to grow. You're trying to do this for a business. You're trying to build a career and make money. And then the agency's giving you these false promises saying, oh, yeah, don't worry, we're doing this. Oh, we're doing this. We handle everything. And then next thing you know, it's like, where's all our stuff? Where's our money? Where's, what's going on here? And then find out, hey, it didn't exist. I mean, it's the ultimate con.
Yeah, it was really bad. A lot of us, almost every single one of us that I have talked to, had plans that we were trying to do this year that we either put off or we canceled, or they just never ended up happening for one reason or another, because we trusted this agency. And we kept saying that either, we would do these plans when we debuted, or, we put it on hold for one reason or another because we wanted to trust this agency. And we wanted to say that, if we just put this plan off, it'll do better after we're debuted with the agency. Or, for example, one of my friends is very into fighting games, and he got invited to a tournament, but he had to drop out because and I do hope I'm remembering this correctly, but I believe he had to drop out because Ray was very wishy-washy about debut times, and he ended up putting the debut time like right on top of the tournament time. Or it was something along those lines. I'm probably messing it up, but you know, a lot of us sacrificed a lot of different things because we thought that something better was coming, that we were, you know, we were being promised all these huge things, and to find out that none of those were actually going to happen, that it was all a lie, was, you know, you can't get your trust back from something like that.
No, especially just lies stacked on lies for over a year. I mean,
yeah,
and probably longer for some. It's just at the point, it's like, when's the lies going to stop? And then, you know, you've put all this trust in this individual that's supposed to be leading this company, supposed to take in everybody to greatness, and then you're left with nothing. You just see a tumbleweed. Well, maybe not even the tumbleweed at this point. That may cost some money for the asset.
Absolutely, yeah.
So it's like, what are you doing here? And and I hope that does not ruin everybody's feeling on agencies. I mean, I've heard there is good ones out there, but they're hard to find. But from my opinion, I feel like networking is the best way. Like what I did with you, Skari. I reached out to you. I just took a stab, said, hey, would you like to do an interview on this? Because I think you have a story to tell on this and something for viewers to be very careful of if they're looking into VTubing or if you're an independent content creator. I mean, all this stuff happens. I mean, they had the, and I know it's not an agency or anything, but they keep having these crypto scams too, where people are sold on something that doesn't really exist. And then they end up losing, you know, there's a lot of danger with all this stuff. Now, I don't know any agency that you have to put money in, at least. Hopefully that's not the case. Thank goodness. Hopefully.
That I know of.
I haven't heard anybody saying, yeah, I had to give them like $5,000 and buying on stocks options. I'm like, uh-oh. That would be a red flag to me if somebody said, yeah, I had to pay it. I'm like,
yeah.
Why would you be paying in? You're technically an employee. If it's the contract, they should. What's going on here?
Yeah, that would absolutely be a red flag. At that point, you know they're a scam.
Yeah, and hopefully we're not seeing that, or people are going to try that in the future. But geez, I take it pretty much the company is dissolved at this point.
Oh yeah, it's gone.
Yeah. Well, rightfully so. A lot of people. I'll be honest with you. I got through after years, I got through about 10 more, and I kept seeing the same thing, and I'm just like,
yep.
Wow. I'm like, this is a massive red flag.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a smaller company, and this is horrible red flags. And then you see, like this year, you saw Niji Sanji with all their red flags for everything that keeps popping out. It's like, is agencies really gonna last at this point? That's one thing I wonder. I mean, like, even with Fauna leaving and saying difference with the management, that kind of, I don't know, that's throwing a red flag my way. Like, what's going on over there? And I'm like, hopefully this isn't the end of agencies, but at the same time, I think there's a lot more opportunities with indie now than there ever was.
Oh, absolutely. Indie is definitely starting to seem like the way to go. It's rougher because, you know, you have to do so much on your own. You know, you really don't get any help as an indie. But you got to ask yourself if that's worth it to you. And, you know, you can avoid all the terrible problems that a lot of these scammy agencies bring.
Yeah. And I think it's just weighing the choice But I mean, from what
Mhm.
I've seen, this affected too many people way too heavily. I mean, a
Yeah.
lot of upset people from your agency. And it's like hopefully that does not ruin a lot of them on VTubing. I've seen some have
Mm-mm.
went ahead and tried to continue, and I hope that, the artists will still continue to do art, and I hope all the VTubers will still continue and be able to pick up the pieces. I mean, that's just, but it sounds like you all still have really close ties together and kind of are helping each other out. So that's a positive thing because
Yeah.
you have built a lot of friendships and bridges in the agency. So I think you guys will be okay. I really do.
Oh, absolutely. Mm-hmm.
I do, but wow, just making all these promises.
Yeah.
Cash and checks he couldn't cash.
One of the things that Ray also kind of did, which, kept us in the dark for so long, because if we had been talking to each other, we probably would have been, we probably would have discovered this a lot sooner.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know how many testimonies, or if you read the testimonies about the people who were fired.
I didn't even
VirtuX.
get to that. There's just so many of them. I was drowning in it.
No, you're totally fine. There were, oh gosh, over 20, I think, the last time I checked. But one of the things that Ray did was anytime anybody challenged him in the slightest, or anytime he didn't like you, he would fire you and then immediately tell every single person to cease all communication, to unfollow them, unfriend them, no communication. Ignore them, pretend like they don't exist, or we would get fired. We would be breaking our NDA because we would be talking with people outside the agency. There was a situation where 2 members were fired because they were voicing concerns about how VirtuX was being run. They were voicing concerns about, timelines not being met, about deadlines being missed, all this stuff. And they were valid concerns. And there were some other things going on, but, that's not really my story to tell. But they got fired for it. And it put in place this, I'm not sure the word for it, but it put in place this thought to all the others that if you complain in DMs or in, the servers to your fellow members, you were also at risk of being fired. And so a lot of us suffered for so long in silence because we were so sure that that would happen to us. If we went to our buddy and said, oh man, I'm really upset right now because Ray told me that I was going to get this update 5 months ago and it still hasn't come, we were scared that we would get fired for it because we had seen it happen. It happened several times actually, where he fired people for speaking up about it.
A form of tyranny, really, as a CEO.
Yeah, absolutely. And the minute that we were no longer afraid of that, and the minute that we all came together and started really telling each other what Ray had told us, we started seeing all the inconsistencies, all the lies, all the places where things just didn't match up, and that was where the company fell apart because we knew. And there's no saving that, Trust is gone.
He tried so long to basically rule by fear. Mm-hmm. Your career was gone with the company, and he would basically blackball you. And I think with him saying how he had ties with all these larger companies like Vsojo,
yeah,
that added another layer of fear because he'd go back to Vsojo and say, well, what this person did and all this, mm-hmm. and now you worry about being blackballed from larger portions of the VTuber community.
And he did do that. He told us that several of the people that he fired, he would say, oh yeah, I went to Vshoujo and I told him all about this person, or I went to Phase Connect, or I went, to all these other agencies and I told him all about these people. He also would like to brag about how he was suing nearly every single one of them. And and just suing them for all they were worth, and, how he was winning in court, and that we were all going to celebrate with the money that he had gained off of these people. And back then, when we would hear that, we were like, that's terrifying, but he was also lying to us, because he would never tell us the reason that those people got fired. He would always come up with some other excuse, like they had, broken NDA, or they were, talking poorly about, everybody in the agency, or they did this and this and this and this. And so he would make them think that, oh yeah, no, they got fired for legit reasons. They broke NDA, they did this and this. And it turns out, no, they never did, But he would make us believe that they had. So. And
I did see when he did mention to a bunch of people, even after all the, hey, I'm leaving, started threatening people with lawsuits and saying, hey, you're going to be breaking NDA. And even I saw one of your threads saying, you've had already lawyers look at, there's nothing to break.
Yeah.
So he was just using fear, just pure fear, and to try to ruin somebody's life.
Yeah. So the interesting thing about the contracts is we had lawyers look over the contracts when the agency started, right? Mm-hmm. And they all kind of said the same thing. They said that the contract was a little weird, but nothing really wrong with it. Just, forge on ahead, I guess, have fun, None of them really picked anything up. But when the agency exploded, when all of us found out that we weren't going to be able to get our money back, that all these promises were going to be made null and void, myself, as well as a few others, took the contract and everything that happened to lawyers again. Kind of as a, like, hey, can we do anything about this? Can we sue him? Can we get our money back? And what we found out is that the contracts were never, like, they weren't ever real, really. Like, lawyers hadn't drafted them. The CRA number that was listed on them was false. Ray was never legally allowed to hire people outside of Canada, which most of us are not in Canada. I think only, single-digit numbers of people, were in Canada. Mm-hmm. So it just really, really sketchy.
Yeah, and there's a lot of language in business law as far as when it comes to contracts that you have to have in them. And sometimes it gets to the point you really do need lawyers to decipher it. I've taken enough business law to be dangerous. And I'm like, and I wanted to go into law school at one time years ago. But yeah, there's specific language in there that has to be in the provisions, and it there's also limitations to it. Like, it can't be illegal. Yeah, there can't be anything that violates legalities. And yeah, then you also have to recognize international law, which you just said, point in case. Apparently he was not recognizing international law at that point.
Yep.
It gets very tricky, all that does.
Yeah. That's why I said earlier, you were telling me that I didn't have to say anything that would get me in trouble. There isn't anything that will get me in trouble because the NDA wasn't real and nothing I'm saying is false. So, So, maybe advice too is, if before you ever sign a contract with an agency, get a lawyer to look at it. Yeah, and even that's not 100% foolproof, because we did have lawyers look at it and they said it was cool. So, it's a good idea to get a lawyer to look over it, but even then, you can still get tricked. Yeah. But I'm glad that everybody is free from it, and there is nothing that will harm your brands, harm your image, or any type of legal recourse at this point. I mean, technically I feel like you guys should probably get some legal recourse though, but it don't sound like that's going to happen though. Unfortunately not. Yeah. Anything else you want to disclose
regarding agencies or your story with this?
I don't believe so. I do think the amount of love and support from people ever since we posted our stories has been overwhelming, not just for me, but for all of us. It seems as though, every day we have people reaching out to us, offering to help us with a lot of the debts that a lot of us ended up being in after the agency closed, offering, jobs for those who need them, or offering, just support however they can, whether that's like a follow or, just some kind words. It's been overwhelming, and it's been really amazing to watch.
Kindness
So I'm
goes
just
a
really
long
grateful
ways.
for that.
Kindness really does go a long ways. I mean,
It really, really does. Yeah.
when I saw that, I started following a lot of people from the agency, and
Yeah.
when they were talking, just give them some words of encouragement, because y'all went through hell. Y'all went through a lot of hell on this.
It was really rough. So it really does mean a lot to me that everybody kind of stood up and rallied around us to help support, because it was really hard seeing all of my very, very, very close friends, so upset, so hurt by all of this.
Yeah, just, I mean, over a year worth of lies and being sold everything, it's a false bill of goods on everything, and all
Yeah.
the imaging, all the images of somebody being destroyed or people that were fired based on what you were telling me, a lot of people got hurt catastrophically. I mean, it's going to take a while to recover for people, as everyone's different. Some people won't rebound as fast. And to your point too, earlier you brought up the comment. I saw that comment of the agency remark that somebody said, some things may be too good to be true, but a lot of people want hope. They want a future. So there is people that take advantage of that. And it's, hindsight's 2020. I mean, you're not going to know until you're in it. Sometimes those red flags don't show up right away. So I was definitely in agreement with what your response to that individual. I'm like, you realize that people fall for this stuff because there's always this, it looks like a silver lining, and how could anybody be malicious? And sometimes people really are behind the scenes, and you just never know.
Yeah.
And
it's kind of like how I was saying, like on Twitter, like VirtuX didn't come out the gate over-promising and lying and, doing all these really horrible red flag things. At the start, all they said was that they wanted to give us, a bit of video editing help. They, I brought up my model because that's a situation that was, a big deal for me, because of the AI stuff that I mentioned, the AI scam that I mentioned earlier. And at this beginning, VirtuX, they said, we'll help you with your video editing. We'll help you get a new model. And then, from there on, we'll just market you. So no overpromising, no VShojo right at the start. None of these huge, huge, huge promises that he was, making later on in the year. At the beginning, it was very, reasonable, So a lot of those red flags just simply weren't there. Yeah.
And you don't see a lot of these a lot of times. I mean, and it's like that even in, non-VTubing world. I've run into that stuff too. And it's just, and then you run into these catastrophic situations, and it's a setback. Sometimes it takes a while longer, sometimes, but it's dangerous out there for content creators. A lot of people do not know that there's a lot of people out there to take advantage of us.
It's such a new field, and VTubers especially are so new compared to, everything else in content creation that, a lot of people just don't know yet.
Yeah. And hopefully if they are really serious about this in colleges, which I don't know if you heard that, they're doing content creation degrees now.
Really?
In colleges.
Oh, that's cool.
I'm like, I hope if there's one class on how to look out for scams.
Yeah, that would be helpful. Yeah.
Yeah. And
it's hard though, because the scams change every year,
Yes, they do. They really do.
Yeah. So even then, you're never going to be 100% safe. There's always going to be some new scam around the corner.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. They get more and more creative too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, Skari, do you have anything closing for the viewers that you would like to share?
Thank you for having me. I don't know. It was really fun being here. Thank you so much for listening and for, supporting, any of your favorite content creators. It really does mean a lot to them. And
for the viewers, Skari's YouTube and Twitch will be down in the description below. So definitely check her out, give her a follow, give her a sub, help support her on her journey, especially, help her out with the recovery phase, because it's a long track, guys.
It's going to be a long one.
But you'll get through it. You got a lot of people behind you.
Absolutely. VirtuX left a lot of people in debt and, trying to find a way out of it. So,
yeah, I think
work our way through that.
I did see an article on that. There was a Niji Sanji VTuber that left the company almost $300,000 in debt.
Yeah.
I don't remember which one that was.
I think it was Selene.
I think it was. I think it was, or it was Ichimokavi? It's one of them.
Michimochivi. Yeah, I don't know her story as well as the others. But...
Yeah, I don't know which one is. Maybe I'm getting them mixed up. But someone was like, this thing was 300,000 in debt when they left.
I'm pretty sure it was Selene, because I think it was for her last cup of coffee video. I think, as well as all the other projects she was doing, because she was doing a lot of stuff.
Well, and there was so much news and drama coming out of that agency. It's hard to keep up on that, but. Yeah, that's a scary thing to walk out with debt out of an agency.
It's not fun.
Well, thanks again, and we shall talk soon.
Sounds great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.